Begin. We start, sir.
Yeah, it's it.
Okay. Before we dive into this conversation, I want to reflect on a powerful story that defines what mindset can really do. Mr. Stehlik has found himself in a tough mental space while in Joburg, a period of uncertainty and self-reflection. But rather than letting that moment define him, he regrouped, refocused, and later bought a hotel that was in liquidation. Some, something many would see as a failing asset, and yet under his leadership, it became a symbol of transformation. It reminds me of a quote by Johann Rupert, who said the greatest asset, his greatest advice he ever received from his father was to invest in people. Now, at first glance, that must sound like simply treating employees well, supporting employees with the structure and stuff like that. But it's much more deeper than that. Let me put it like this. Imagine two gardeners one walks past the dying tree and sees firewood. The other sees potential. He waters it, nourishes it, and with time, that same tree bears fruits. The soil didn't change, but this gardener did. That's what investing is all about. It's about understanding that sometimes the difference between failure and success is the mindset of the person holding the wheel. Thank you for coming through, man.
It's a real pleasure. It's really nice to be with you today, Langelihle.
So I want you to just introduce who's Guy Stehlik, who is he coming from, and who this empire mogul in the hotel industry in the African continent.
I'm not too sure about Empire Mogul, um, but I grew up in the hotel industry. My parents were immigrants to South Africa. They arrived here with one suitcase in 1970, and they arrived from Europe. I was 6 months old when they arrived, and they arrived with nothing, and they arrived to very little. But with the typical immigrant mentality, they had to make things work, okay, which is typical of I suppose people who are immigrating from strange to a strange country, um, and that immigrant mentality, I suppose, lingered in my ethos, well, in my persona to a degree, but they made it work. And I grew up in the hotel industry. My father moved quite quickly up the ranks when he joined the hotel industry here in 1970, which eventually culminated in him founding and starting Protea Hotels in 1980 as the founder of that group, and then eventually selling Protea Hotels in 2016 as the biggest hotel group in Africa with over 180 hotels to the Marriott Hotel Group from the USA. Now, I'd hate to say that I was part of that journey, but by default I was, as a young boy listening to my father at the dinner table with his anecdotes of what he went through during his working day, and then later on joining the company and moving through a role which was to take very distressed hotel assets and try and turn them around, or distressed hotels and turn them around, which is something that I really enjoyed doing. So I'm a hotelier first and foremost, and it's what I truly love. I've gone all the way up from the bottom. So I have kind of paid my school fees, if you'd like to use that analogy, and I think that's an important thing, that one isn't just thrown in at the top and expected to kind of learn an industry. I've paid my dues and worked all the way from the bottom to the point that I've now got my own business.
Yes, man. Because I made that analogy. It's something that just hit me hard. That you hear people want to invest in forex trading. They want to invest in the hotel industry. They want to do this all sorts of businesses. But just by citing Johann Rupert's quotes, he said the greatest advice he ever received from his father. It's investing in people. It starts here in the mind. So I think Can you just tell us the time when you actually went in the right mental state and what actually changed your perspective of actually, you know what, I wanna save my family. I wanna just get into this zone of trying to make an impact in society.
Mm. Well, without giving too much personal detail away, I was in big trouble in between about 2004 and 2007. My life was a mess. I was busy kind of heading towards a divorce. My health was very poor, and my life had become unmanageable in many ways. And I decided to reach out for help. I got that help. But the key was I decided to reach out for help. No one else decided that for me. I knew I was in trouble and I needed to do something about it. I managed to turn my life around in about 2007, move away from Johannesburg and move back to Cape Town, which is where I grew up, and where all of my roots were, and get back to the industry which I loved. You know, I'd left the industry for a few years. It didn't serve me well. You know, when you go against the grain of something, it often doesn't end well. And you feel it while you're in it. You feel that this is not my calling, okay, that I'm going against the grain. And, you know, therein is a lesson by itself. You know when you're going against the grain in relationships, in work, it doesn't matter. When your calling is the wrong calling. And I certainly felt it, and I ended up in trouble. So I decided to come back to Cape Town. Fortunately, I hadn't hit rock bottom by that point. And I managed to pick myself up and redefine my objectives, which is start my own business and start small, something I've always wanted to do, which was have my own hotels. And that's exactly what I did. I moved back to Cape Town. I took my children, I moved my children from Johannesburg. I moved them into school here in Cape Town. And this all happened within a couple of days because I knew it was the right thing to do.
What gaps did you find in the hotel industry that made you want to create the own hotels?
Well, the gap was, it was more than just seeing an actual gap. It was seeing an opportunity shrouded in difficulty. Okay. And I remember some of the best advice my father gave me was these simple words: if it is easy, then everyone else will be doing it. Okay. That's always stuck with me. Just because it's easy, because it's easy, everyone else should be doing it or will be doing it. If it's hard, very few people will be doing it. Okay. And when I started looking for hotel opportunities here in Cape Town back then, I was looking in all the wrong places. I wasn't looking for the fixer-upper, the property in distress, the hotel in liquidation, the building that could be converted. I was looking in the mainstream. And then I realized very quickly that as an entrepreneur, you have to look for the opportunities that are shrouded in difficulty, the ones that no one else can see, the ones that people have turned up their noses at, the ones that they can't see the woods for the trees. If you can be the one who can identify the opportunity within the difficulty, that makes an entrepreneur. And often those are the best business propositions because you pick them up cheaply. Okay. They're the ones that no one else wants to touch. But something inside of you, it might not even be an educated guess, but something tells you that this opportunity is going to work. And often it's as simple as that. Okay. And it's not sophisticated, but it's with a little bit of sense, a little bit of maybe a little bit of advice or mentorship from other people or inputs from other people, so that you're not just believing your own propaganda, that the opportunity emerges the more you look at it. And in my experience, those are the best opportunities. And just to illustrate how that actually worked in reality is, I stumbled across this hotel in liquidation. It was literally a whorehouse. Okay. It had been built, but kind of left to neglect because the developer didn't have the funds to finish off the property or the hotel. And I picked it up in auction for a song. it wasn't in the sexiest area, so it wasn't at the waterfront or in Cape Town or in the prime tourist areas. It was on the outskirts of Cape Town, in a not a very fashionable area, but there were corporates in that space, big corporates in that space, lots of business people, and we know that corporate hotels or corporate mid-market hotels are very good value propositions and business propositions. And therein lay the opportunity. And I bought the property and fixed it up, and it flew from day one.
I mean, I was listening to your interview. I think it was 6 years back. You were speaking about the political landscape, the GDP growth. Um, I, in Nigeria, I guess that it was growing, because you were thinking of expanding into other continents, excluding South Africa. And then yeah, you spoke about the declining. Oh, you spoke about the improvement of the better infrastructure, the roads, improving in those regions, and the middle class Nigerians emerging into the markets, right? So I want to ask, is that still happening? Is that still growing? Is that still improving the hotel industry in those regions compared to South Africa right now? Like, what is the landscape between building a hotel industry in South Africa compared to building a hotel industry in Nigeria?
Well, I can answer that quite simply and especially in the sense that in South Africa, we have a much more mature tourism market and tourism infrastructure here than one that exists in Nigeria. Typically, what happens in these developing countries is that the international hotel groups years back have identified an opportunity to put down a big monstrosity hotel, 500-600 bedroom hotel, and then move on to the next country. Okay. And typically what you have, as we see in Angola and various other countries, that the gap between five-star hotels, the affordability of the hotels in those countries is impossible for the average man in the street. They can't go on holiday. What they can do is go and stay in a local horrible hotel, but certainly nothing decent. And what we did in Nigeria is bring excellent mid-market hotels into those countries, into that country, okay, piggybacking off the improved kind of infrastructure development that's going on there as far as roads are concerned and transportation, and thus creating an environment where the man in the street can now afford to stay in a decent hotel, in a very good 3-star mid-market South African style, a full service hotel. And that is where we've seen the growth. And we're doing the same thing in Angola, where again, you've only got 5-star hotels and then very little else. And we're going to be doing exactly the same thing there. In fact, there's even more opportunity in Angola because there's such political will from the government to boost their tourism offerings to the world.
I mean, what are the biggest challenges you've ever experienced in building Bond hotels in South Africa? Has there been like a political risk, government, Ramaphosa, has he ever said something tricky, in your guys, especially?
Well, I've got to be careful here. Doing business in South Africa in the tourism industry is risky. It's seriously risky because, over the last 10, 15 years, the circumstances for us as business owners is very difficult. Okay. There are so many own goals that have been scored by the powers that be. Certainly in the realms of electricity provision and load shedding, water, crime, the visa fiasco a few years ago. These are all things that directly impact on people coming to this country and people's ability to travel. And, as tough as we are as South Africans and as resilient as we are in nature, as business people and human beings, there's a limit to how much we can take. But again, the main thing is how resilient we are and the desire for us to be able to continue no matter what. There are people that need our tourism offerings, and be it corporates or conference delegates or government or international leisure clientele. And by hook or by crook, we will continue to provide those services. So, yeah, there have been lots of occasions where the government and what the government has been up to has directly impacted on us and continues to do so. But we are resilient in nature and we find a way to navigate through that. And, quite frankly, if we can operate hotels in Nigeria the way that we do, we can operate hotels anywhere in the world. So, Nigeria is a very difficult environment to be operating hotels, and we can make it work there. So South Africa is up, I would say, not quite a walk in the park in comparison, but a lot easier.
I mean, in South Africa, we had COVID-19. I mean, all over the world, every places were closed except for Sweden. I don't know if you know that, but I want to know the landscape of the hotel industry. How did you lead through those difficulties? Like, what is happening? Just tell us about the people. How many people were actually? Yeah, just lead us through that whole scenario in Bon Hotels.
Sure. Well, we had two choices. Okay, we could either close our hotels down when lockdown began, or we could see if there was a way that we could continue to trade. Okay, we chose the latter. Yes, we had to rationalize our staff. We didn't retrench a single person. We didn't fire a single, not fire. We didn't let go of anyone. So everyone still maintained their jobs. Okay, maybe not the number of hours that they had before, but they maintained their jobs. So that's point one. Point two is we knew that we had to work with local government in particular to keep those hotels going. So the first thing I did is I reached out to local government here in Cape Town, and we got an arrangement to get the nurses to come and stay at my hotel, at one of our hotels, or one of our big hotels in Cape Town. And we did that deal. Okay, and the hotel traded for 2 years, whereas most other hotels closed down. We were one of about 5 hotels that continued to trade in the whole of Cape Town. And that was because we made that decision. We had to make it work. Most of our hotels continued to trade during that time in one way or another, in very limited fashion. But they all continued to trade. Not one of the properties closed down or shut down for that period. So we're resourceful as human beings and South Africans by nature. We had to make a plan because our insurance policies, we knew that getting payouts like certain other companies or other industries would get from insurance companies wouldn't be going our way. So we couldn't kind of sit back and just hope for an insurance payout at the end of the period.
What advice would you give to young, striving Africans, right, who are looking to build something like meaningful in a legacy-driven industry? And also, just closing off, what were the proudest moments in Bon Hotels, and who's the mentor, or what is your biggest philosophy? Just cite a book or a mentor that has been super, yeah.
Okay. So my advice to young Africans, as far as this industry is concerned, the hospitality industry is concerned, is number one, you have to, if you want to play in this industry, you've got to ask yourself one question and one question only. Do I want to be of service to other people? There is no point in getting into this industry if you are not willing to serve. If you are just going to think, if you're just going to think that you can get into this business without having a service ethos deep down inside of you, you're in the wrong business and you will hate this industry. So that's point one. Point two is you've got to take a bottoms up approach. No one is going to employ you at mid-management level, okay, or general management level. You have to go through the hard yards, okay? You have to. When I say you have to, maybe you don't have to, but you won't reach the pinnacle of your opportunities if you haven't learned from the bottom up. Okay. Don't be too proud to say, listen, I'm going to forego the next couple of years, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. Don't be too proud. Nothing in life comes easily. And then the third thing is, if you want to eventually build or buy your own hotel, there are definitely mechanisms that you can work around where African youngsters or young people who are commercially minded and entrepreneurially minded can do that. And did you know that the NEF and the IDC have got entire divisions of people that are waiting for your phone calls to be able to look through the opportunity that you've come up with to buy a hotel or build a hotel? They will insist that you partner with a hotel group, preferably like one like ours, okay? That there's a partnership between the two so that you've got hospitality expertise. But there are major opportunities to be able to do that and to get funding from government or from the parastatals. As far as the best advice I ever received was this quotation: there's a time to plan and a time to do. Don't do when you plan, and don't plan when you do. So very broadly, that kind of separates the functions of planning and doing. And often we mix the two together. We try and plan and do at the same time, and no wonder we fail. If we separate those two functions and focus on what we want from those outcomes of each of those, we typically succeed.
What is your best book?
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Because no, that's it's not my strong point, and I've really had to work on that.
Thank you so much, man. It's been an honor to have a conversation with you today.
It's been a real pleasure. Anytime.